Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Whatever time you're watching this from. Today I just want to talk about the job crisis and why most Americans don't want to work in this job crisis right now, at the moment. Because it's one thing about the jobs is they're not like they used to be. And I mean, that's clear to a lot of us. A lot of us. It's very clear that jobs aren't what they once was before. Before, years ago, between my first job and the job that I have now, I mean, I'm grateful for the job that I have, of course. And especially in this time when many people just can't find jobs. But either people can't find jobs that they're happy to go to work, or they are not getting a livable wage, right? They're not getting paid enough to sustain themselves. And the problem is, a lot of the times, and a lot of these people were at one point getting paid pretty decent pay, where they could afford to actually pay for their bills, they could afford to pay for their car notes, they could afford to pay for just, food, necessities, clothes, whatever they need to just keep them going, keep them motivated to keep going to work. Now, at this point, there's a thin line. There's a thin line between people that are looking for jobs, and there's, or not a thin line of people. Excuse me, let me correct myself. Not a thin line of people that are looking for jobs, but there's a thin line of people that have a decent job, like a nice job that pays good, and seemingly, like you can tell me your situations of, your job or whatever. You don't have to tell the job. You don't have to tell anybody the job. You don't have to put your full business out there. But you can tell, like, hey, if it's a good job and maybe you're not getting paid what you used to get paid, or the cost of living has went up so high that you can no longer afford to, stay at just that job and sustain yourself, pretty much. So it's just kind of a mix between people looking for jobs and they can't find the work, or people just not wanting to work also because they're not motivated, or they're at work, they have a job, but it doesn't feel like a job. It feels more like slavery than work because they still can't sustain themselves, right? And especially, it's like a stab in the back whenever you was working at one point in time and it was all good. It was all good just a week ago. But in this time of uncertainty, and in the time of AI, and in the time of just so much people looking for work, and there's not enough jobs to match the people looking for work. Once upon a time, it was enough jobs, maybe more than enough jobs, than people actually looking for jobs. So now we're basically just dealing with a Shark Tank of people all looking for the same job, and that in itself is a bigger problem, because people are having to reduce their job or their title and maybe swallow some of their pride to try to just get any job, even though they're 3 times overqualified for the position, even though they might not like the job, even though they, it's not something that they've seen themselves doing. And there should be more opportunity. So it's kind of like, it's just a problem with our economy at the moment. And whoever you want to blame for the economy being the way it is, that's just who you blame. But it doesn't make a difference to the fact that a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people are going through a crisis right now whenever it comes to their jobs. They don't know how their next paycheck might get revoked, or they don't know if they're going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly they don't have a job. Amazon, for instance, UPS, companies like that, for instance, they don't know if they're going to have a job tomorrow. And then especially, you read the news and you look at the stats of how many people, whatever stats that we're allowed to get at this point, because obviously the chief of the labor or the workforce or whatever has been fired. So it's kind of like we just get whatever stats that they want to throw at us. They don't have to be true. They don't have to be certain, whatever. But whenever you look around, like, at the real people that are actually living this life and going through this stuff every day, people are struggling. I mean, people are up to their eyeballs in debt. Maybe you was paying a car note or two, and you could support yourself, and everything was all fine. You could support yourself. You was good. Maybe you paid for your girl's car. Maybe you paid for this. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. Right? Maybe it's just you. Maybe it's just you living in your house. Maybe you have a kid, whatever. And it was fine. It was manageable a few years ago, or it was manageable. Whenever it was manageable to you, it was manageable, right? But now, it's not. And that's the bigger problem. That's the problem I'm talking about. And then there's people putting in hundreds and hundreds of applications. There's proof there's people doing it. I don't believe people are just gonna just all come online with the same exact topic saying I put in hundreds of applications, and maybe they've received callbacks, or maybe they've even done a round or 3 or 4 interviews before they was actually even considered for the position. And these are like small jobs, like not jobs that require so much effort and so much this and that, and people are still not getting this job. I mean, these are jobs that you should be able to come fresh out of high school, or still be in school and work, and people are not even getting hired to those jobs. So that should tell you a lot. And most of it, like I've even done it, just looking through applications and looking through whatever, and you go through so many that it gets tiresome that you almost want to give up. I mean, it depends on what type of person you are, because if you're resilient, of course you're gonna keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. But what happens whenever it gets rough? Like, it gets rough and tough, and then you don't want to try anymore because you've done everything. You changed your resume 100 times. You changed your resume 100 times. You tried to work the algorithm, or you tried to put keywords in your resume, and you try to do all these things. Some people lied on their resume, and none of that matters, and you're still not anywhere. Some people have been out of work for months, let alone years. I won't say years, but maybe a year. Let's say maybe a year of work. Now, if you're out of work for years and you just can't find anything at all whatsoever, even if it's a small part-time job, then maybe that might be a pride issue. But in the same sense, it's also a real issue with the job market, the labor force, the workforce, whatever. It's a huge issue, and everybody's starting to see it at this point. And if you don't, I don't know what planet you're living on, or where you're not out here in the same tank with the rest of us, but even us people that do have jobs, it's not enough. Like, there's some people that have to get 2-3 jobs just to feel like they're not gonna fall under, and even they're struggling. Even they're still struggling. They're going through it. So there's change that needs to happen immediately. Either all the stuff has to go back down to an affordable living, and I know it's wishful thinking, but either everything has to go back down, or some of these jobs have to, they have to start paying more. But it's hard to say that some of these jobs have to pay more, because it's not as sustainable as it once was. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for them to pay more when their business might not be as great as it used to be or once was. So it does become a little bit more difficult for those companies, because they're trying to protect their assets. They're trying to protect themselves. And even though some of these companies make plenty of money, and you couldn't really see it any other way, right? Some of these companies make plenty of money, and you're just thinking, like, why can't they just hire me? And why can't they just, afford to pay me what I'm worth? Like, companies haven't been paying people what they're worth ever, I don't think. But especially now, because we're in a time and age of artificial intelligence, and if you don't see by now, they're replacing hundreds of thousands of jobs, planning to be millions of jobs, maybe even however many jobs there actually are out here. They're planning to replace the majority of them. And then a lot of people just think that, oh, it's only going to be the top of the companies that are going to get fired, and then all the real humans are just going to manage everything else, which is like wishful thinking as well. But it couldn't be true, because if they're firing, now I don't know how true this is, but I'm seeing people online say that they have agents as bosses, like artificial intelligent agents, they don't even talk to a manager. They don't even talk to a manager anymore. They just talk to a robot, a computer, and then their computer directs them or tells them whatever it is that they need to be told, and they just have to go with it. So if the AI feels like it's prompted to fire you or whatever, like, people are getting fired through text messages. Like, we're certainly not living in the age that we used to live in whenever it comes to jobs. Like, people are getting fired over text messages. And the level of unprofessionalism in this job and labor market doesn't even matter at this point, because they don't care. Like, if a company needs to get rid of you, they're going to get rid of you, no questions asked. And they're going to tell you that budget cuts. It's for budget cuts. They told some people, I remember they was coming out during the whole Doge thing, and people were making videos saying that they're qualified. They've been qualified. They've been working there for years on years, decades, and they was told it's a performance issue. They're not meeting the requirements anymore. And it's just that simple. It's that easy for a company. And I know a lot of companies, they can fire you for any reason. They don't have to really have a reason. Like, a lot of companies don't really have to have a reason. But the fact that they don't even care about the people that they're letting go. And there's people that's out here that actually want to work, actually want to try to make a living for themselves, so they can live the so-called American dream. And it's hard to do that under the circumstances that everybody is living through right now. It's extremely hard to even manage yourself, let alone trying to manage another person or whoever else. So it's kind of like they say, it's a rat race, but it's more so like more even now, because sometimes people will work and they will have a reason. They work, they can save up their money, and then they can afford something that they want. They can afford something that they want, that they've been wanting. You save up for it, and then you get it. That's how hardworking people, that's how they do. You save up for it, you work for it, you save up for it, and then you get what you want. But right now, it's almost like that's not even a reality for a lot, the majority of people, because the saving up is almost out of sight whenever you're living check to check, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to eat, how you're going to pay your rent, which one that you need to do in between. And then, let's say your rent goes up, your insurance goes up, and then you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you don't have the foresight, I guess you would say. You don't have the foreseeable future right in front of you, which obviously the future is not guaranteed, but you used to have job security, is what I'm saying. You used to have job security where it was, you knew where your next paycheck was coming from. You knew where your next few paychecks were coming from. You had seniority at your job. You had a union, you had a position, you had whatever it is. But now it's just like, oh, Bob, you're fired. We're bringing in AI. Jack, whoever, whatever, right? John, we appreciate you. We're going to let you go. We're going to give you a severance package. But we're not going to continue your work here. Our company's closing down. How many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard the company's closing down? Everything's shutting down. Why the hell is everything shutting down? an economy that's supposed to be open. There is people that have been open for 70 years that have to close the doors because they're going out of business. 30 years they're going out of business. They have to close the doors. I just seen Six Flags the other day. Six Flags America, after 50 years, finally closing the doors. I don't know the situation, but if the economy is going upwards, things like that shouldn't be happening. And that's what I'm saying. So, yeah. I mean, it's demoralizing a lot of times if you're a person that is wanting to work and you truly want to work, but you also want what you're worth. And although that's never been truly a reality, a lot of people were a lot more comfortable with what they used to be able to get paid, because at least they could save up some money and go out, and they could save up some money and take a trip, or they could save up some money and buy that new cool whatever they wanted. So, yeah. That's pretty much my opinion on why people, and I guess there's millions of other people that are agreeing, because you see it every day online. So yeah, we're in a crisis right now. People don't want to work. Hopefully, in the future, the stuff gets better, man. That's all I gotta say. If you happen to see this video, if you don't mind, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I love you guys. I'm out.